Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy. 4 nerds by nerds. Hang out with this nerd.
I'm Ted.
Today we're going to teach you how to use the deck of many things in your game.
If you want to jump down to the description below, you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter. It's a great way to get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So we had a viewer question asking how to use the deck of many things in your game and suggestions. Well, here's the thing. The deck of many things is a trap for both the player and the GM.
Yes.
I've used it a few times in my earlier years of GMing.
I don't think as a DM I've ever given it out. As a player, I don't know if I've ever received it or ever drawn a card.
See, I've seen both sides of the deck of many things.
I'm aware of the trap that is this. So
let's talk about it from the DM's perspective first.
All right.
The deck of many thing is a very enticing, alluring magic item to give to your players because it's fun. Like there is a sense of wonder and fun when you go, here's the deck of many things. You pull out a deck of cards, you slam them down on the table, be like, how many draws do you want? And you go around to the whole table and offer them as many draws as they want. And then you just don't know what's going to happen. But nothing will destroy your game like a deck of many things.
100% correct. Because you have the ability to utterly destroy party composition. It can force a player character to change their alignment, lose levels, gain levels. And if like alignment alone can seriously muck up a character. And it's like, all right, you had this hero. You had this person who was the pinnacle. They were lawful good. Well, if you draw the card that forces their alignment change, which is balance, you utterly become chaotic evil. Well, that forces the player to play a character that they weren't interested in playing. Back in the early days of D&D, that kind of stuff was fairly commonplace. I think with the current iteration of what D&D is meant to be, I don't feel that fits the flavor of the game anymore. And that's just one of the cards that you can draw. And this is a wild magic table gone haywire, because you have got good effects and you've got horribly negative effects. And oh, so what? Someone fireballed the party. Well, you've got much more dire circumstances in these evil cards.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely certain things that you're going to happen. There's several cards that you're going to draw that flat out just kill your character. For one, which is pretty horrible. Then you have some ones like that, you know, you can end up basically having to deal with the Avatar of Death, which isn't flat out going to kill you, but it's probably going to kill you.
And it's worth 0 XP.
It is worth 0 XP. And then there's things that are just going to, like, Monty Hall characters in there. And then there's other things that are kind of fun that aren't really that big a deal.
All right, you know, you can gain the service of a retainer. That's awesome. You can
have a retainer that's going to betray you at some point.
Well, depending upon how the DM wants to do that twist. But it's like, all right, what about ruin? All forms of wealth that you carry or own are lost to you. Portable property vanishes. Businesses, buildings, and land that you own in a way that alters reality the least. Any documents that prove you should own something lost to this card also disappears. So you've got no coin, you've got no land, you've got no wealth. That some DMs might even pervert that you would lose titles, you could lose you know, any mentions of honor, because that could be considered a wealth. So
what about gear? Like,
well, it says like you keep your magic items.
Okay.
Says other than magic items.
Okay. Well, that would be all your gear that isn't magic then.
Okay.
I mean, depending on the interpretation of the dungeon master.
True.
You're naked except for that scabbard and ring you're wearing.
Permanently reduce your intelligence by 1d4 plus 1. Oh, but you can draw a new card.
Yeah. Let's see. Talons is every magic item you wear or carry, disintegrated, artifact you possess aren't destroyed, but they do vanish. Well, I guess that's not that big a deal in my campaign, but other campaigns it'd be a problem.
And then there's the card that has the ability to both be beneficial and detrimental depending upon what kind of DM you're playing with, and that's the one that can get you 1d3 wishes. Because I know I've heard many stories about the wish spell being utterly perverted to ruin. So it's like, oh, well, I'm going to get a wish spell and now I'm going to go do this dissertation so that it's not warping me in some way, shape, or form. So you have to make sure that you've got a DM who is going to say, okay, well, hey, I want 10,000 gold.
Quick question for you, Ted. You got that player's handbook over there, right? 50,000 XP. What level is that?
50,000 XP.
Just curious off the top of my head. We looked at 10,000, which is something you can gain, and that's that's a card in here. That's enough to put you at 6th level.
Right. So if you're level 1 and you pick up the Jester, that gives you 10 grand. That can get you halfway to 6th. But 50,000 will take you from 1 to halfway to 10th.
And that's the Sun card.
That's the Sun card. 50k XP.
And say you take multiple draws, like you could draw both of those cards and get 60,000. Oh, that's 50,000 XP and a wondrous item.
Oh!
Appears in your hand.
Well, that's by far, the best card I've seen.
Stat bumps, nice. Like Void gets, your soul gets sucked away. I think there's another one where you get imprisoned.
Yes, that is the Donjon card. How do I want to pronounce that?
The Fool, you can lose 10,000 XP, discard the card, draw from the deck again.
20 pieces. The gem card, 25 pieces of jewelry worth 2,000 gold pieces each, or 50 gems worth 1,000 gold pieces each appear at your feet. So you're getting 50,000 gems. So the problems are with this as a DM. You don't know what's going to happen. So it can utterly detriment the players, or it can give them boons and bonuses that are without your ability to mitigate. Now, gold, so what? What is someone going to do with that kind of money without some kind of marketplace to spend it? If you don't allow
50,000 gems is hard to spend.
50,000 in diamonds is not an easy to spend. Oh, well, you're going to have to go to gem cutters or traders to get that into usable currency. And, of course, there's going to be a cost involved in there. If you're playing in a game where you don't have magic item vendors, well, then they're just sitting on a lot of
You're
wealth.
going to be like Scrooge McDuck with a money bin,
So it's like, all right, what are you going to do with that? But if you're playing in a game where you can buy magic items, well, you've got 50,000 gold, you're buying magic items with that. You're buying things that are going to be beneficial to the party that might be beyond the level that they're actually at.
Now, there are some fun things you could do. Like, there's one where you get the enmity of a devil. So, I mean, that's okay because that can actually be built into the story later on.
Right, and as long as you, as the DM, playing that appropriately, it's like, oh, well, now we have a new plot thread, and you can add extra layers of the challenge, always making sure that you're putting you're putting the level of the challenge appropriate to the characters, as opposed to like, you don't be like, oh, the devil shows up, you have to fight him now. I mean, that's not good story.
Well, it's not even worded that way, so it's not a big deal.
Right, true. But some DMs are going to do that because we've encountered DMs like that.
Well, that's true. But the way the card's actually worded is you gain the enmity of the greater devil, and it wants to see you suffer before you die. Yeah. So, in theory, yes, there are the DMs that'll be like, oh, it's going to capture you and torture you and then kill everybody in front of you. That's how you will suffer. But, a more creative DM would actually have it happen over the course of stories. Then there's other things you can do, like, hey, you gain 50,000 XP and a wondrous item. But that wondrous item actually belongs to somebody else,
right?
And they want it back. Or you get 50,000 gems. Where did they come from? They had to come from somewhere. So there's definitely some things you could do to embed it into the story. The biggest problem is when one character gets a bunch of beneficial boons, and another character gets completely screwed, and another character gets killed, another character is somewhere in between. So now your characters and your party balance is all over the place.
Right.
You're no longer, your characters are no longer the same levels. They have vastly different attributes or access to different things now. And
like your fighter losing a little bit of intelligence, probably not going to be all that not going to see that as a problem. But your wizard went from a 14 to a 9. He's not going to be happy.
Let's just say, I mean, he probably has a 16, but still, you get bad, you roll bad, and he's got an 11. Like, what is that? Like, say he's 6th level. He can now, I think he can only memorize like 7 spells a day now or something.
It becomes
with
a problem.
Bunch of slots, and he's not good at hitting with them, and they're not that effective anymore.
Right.
So there's definitely a lot of ways that this is going to screw up your campaign.
So as a DM, it's a big old ball of crazy, a big old ball of chaos. As a player, it's enticing because you're hoping to get those good cards. And you got to say, all right, I'm going to draw 1 card, 2 cards, 3 cards. You can pick as many as you like, but once you say you're going to draw them,
you get those cards.
You draw unless you get the one that imprisons you, which possibly takes you out of the game entirely. Like, you have to draw the next card that you said you're going to.
Yeah. So, is there a way to use a deck of many things in your game and not screw your game up?
Well, there is. And when you create the deck, you take a standard deck of cards and you remove the ones that aren't in there. Well, the more detrimental cards that you don't want to deal with, or the cards you don't want to see in there, you can take out and not tell your players that you've done so, and let them fear for their lives and say, okay, draw.
So, but if you're going to do that route, I would definitely say leave some bad cards in there.
Oh, absolutely.
Just take out the worst cards.
Yes, take out the ones.
I would let their intelligence drop. I would let all their gear go away. I would let someone betray them. I would allow the anonymity of a devil.
You could actually, if you have 2 decks of cards that are identical, you can, for every bad card that you take out that you don't want, you could put another bad card in that you're allowing, so that the chances are still the same, just that the effects that you don't want are gone.
Mitigate it, yeah. And then you could do the same thing with the good cards as well that you don't want. Like there's some things like you may not want them to have wishes or gain 50,000.
50,000 XP is enough
one
to
shot.
Like, if you're higher level, 50,000 might be a level, might be 2 levels. That's not too bad. But if you've been insane enough to give this to someone who's like 1st through 3rd level, that's enough to put them miles ahead of everyone else, and there's no way to catch up.
So here's the other thing I would use a deck of many things for. I would cherry pick the good and the bad for ideas for you to give boons to your players. Mm-hmm. That is a far better use, in my opinion, other than if you're going to modify the deck and make it what you want it to make it. Or maybe you make your own deck and completely change out everything, and you kind of like have your own spectrum of awesome and suck that you want your players to be able to access.
That's a really fantastic idea
as well. But mainly because I've given out boons like these throughout my campaign that I'm running now, that I'll be running tonight. But it's always the milder stuff,
right?
And it's the stuff that I don't feel like is going to impact the game.
So what do you think about another like a legend lore of us coming up with our own deck of many thing options?
Oh, you mean for Patreon?
Yeah,
we could absolutely do that. That would be fun. I mean, I believe there was a Kickstarter not that long ago where they built their own deck of many things as well. I don't remember the specifics.
Right.
But you know what I would really love to hear from you guys is your horror stories. I don't want to hear the fun stuff. I want to hear the horror stories from how the deck of many things have affected your games. Let us know in the comments below how you're at it. Like, share, and subscribe.
You can tweet at us at Nerdarchy.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.